Nick, Tampa Bay ekes out a win in the Sunday night debut. Brady, comes out. There's all this controversy over the offseason. Where's Brady? Who cares as long as he can come back week one and get the win? And he did it. So now we can't care anymore about where Brady was because he certainly was ready enough to win the game. But this was an interesting display by the Buccaneers. There's a lot of new additions to the team. A lot of bright spots on both sides of the ball. But Bucs fans, we want to know in the comments below, who was your MVP of the game? Was it Leonard Fournette, who came into preseason a little bit early? People said he's a little bit too heavy, but looks like if he had a little extra weight, it did him very well. Obviously, he ran for 127 yards. So that's pretty impressive. A lot of receivers on the team: Evans, Jones, Godwin, even Russell Gage, a fan favorite, even showed up on the stat sheet a little bit. Or the defense. Let us know in the comments below, though, who was your MVP of the game. But Nick, what do you got on the Bucs?
Yeah, so this was obviously a dominant performance from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The score actually was a little closer than it was, longer than the actual competitiveness of the game. They absolutely obliterated Dallas. Really, their defense shut down the Dallas offense in its entirety. And the Bucs offense, while they couldn't get many touchdown drives, they controlled the flow and the tempo of the game. So all in all, a strong performance by the Buccaneers. But 2 points of concerns after the game was injuries to left tackle Donovan Smith and wide receiver Chris Godwin. And there's good news for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers on that front. So I'm going to start with Godwin. So Todd Bowles, this is according to ESPN.com, said after the game, he does not believe Pro Bowl wide receiver Chris Godwin's hamstring injury, which he suffered in the second quarter, is, quote, as serious as we thought it was. It all depends on how his treatment goes and how he heals, Bowles said of Godwin, but hopefully we'll have him back sooner rather than later. And then he mentioned this about Donovan Smith, who got hurt after giving up a sack to Micah Parsons earlier in the game. Talking about the injury to Smith, he's pretty sore right now. We'll monitor him during the week, but Bowles went on to say it is possible that Smith can play this upcoming week, saying, quote, we'll see how he feels. Yeah. ESPN made sure to note that Donovan Smith's availability next week will be dictated by his pain tolerance level. So this is obviously really good news for the Bucs. Godwin obviously coming off the ACL last year. There's some worries about, hey, did he potentially re-injure him in that knee or something more serious against Dallas? He looks fine. Maybe a short term, maybe a game, if that. Donovan Smith, again, it's just a pain tolerance thing, so it's going to be a short time missing if he misses any time at all. Obviously, being left tackle, it's a huge position in that offense. Miles, give me your thoughts on this good news for the Buccaneers and just overall how you felt the Buccaneers looked against Dallas.
Yeah, the news is definitely huge. If they're able to only, minimal games, 1-2 games, come back and play strong, that's definitely what Brady needs. He needs consistency. And, overall, the offense, it looked pretty good to me. Obviously, there's a lot of receiving mouths to feed out there. And Brady seemed to, spread it out pretty evenly overall. Obviously, Mike Evans, biggest game, got 71 yards. Julio Jones, the newcomer, though, coming in at 69 yards, a big game for Julio. He looked pretty good in this Bucs offense. Godwin got 35 yards with the injuries, and Russell Gage, who is coming back from an injury, even got 13 yards. So, he looked really good. But yeah, I think that the Bucs, they looked a little bit rusty. Obviously, everybody was either banged up and coming back, or maybe got banged up a little bit during the game. So overall, everyone they need to work out the first game jitters, but still, they were able to put up a stellar defensive front. They were scored the points when they needed to, and Tom Brady is going to get this team. He's back now. He's in charge. They got a game under their belt. They got the jitters out. He's going to whip this team into shape, and they're going to come back next week. Whoever they face next week, I'll be a little bit scared because they're going to want to come out with a little bit more offensive firepower. Brady's probably looking to put up more like 50, I guess. Say, look, Patrick Mahomes isn't the only guy who can throw for, 5 TDs in a game. So I think that the Bucs looked good enough. That's what I'll say. They look good enough offensively, and they look incredible defensively in their first game.
Yeah, and you brought up next week, they're going to New Orleans, right? That's kind of been Tom Brady's kryptonite since he's been with Tampa Bay. So that's obviously a big statement game coming up next week against the Saints. But I think looking at this game and kind of what we talked about earlier this offseason, before the season, about what the Bucs and why they're favored to win, I think, the most games out of anybody in the NFL, according to Vegas, is because they're so deep. I mean, Their secondary absolutely covered up everyone from Dallas. Their linebacking core spectacular. Solid defensive line with Hicks, adding Akeem Hicks. Barrett's a monster. Offensive line, even with Jensen out and even with Donovan Smith out, they look pretty solid. The running game, they've got Fournette, who is a beast, but they got the young guy in White, who's going to be a really nice player. And receivers, they're absolutely stacked. I remember watching the game and I was thinking like, and then I saw Russell Gage check in. I'm like, oh my gosh, I totally forgot they had Russell Gage. It's like their number 4 receiving target, and the guy's a 1,000-yard receiver. So when these guys get that rhythm and they get all the kinks out and they kind of, get their flow going, this offense they're going to be a machine. There won't be anything they can't do, because they proved against Dallas they can run the football. They didn't throw the ball as well as maybe they'd like. Brady with the one bad turnover. They couldn't capitalize in the red zone a number of times, but they made some big plays in the passing game, kind of spread the ball around. So I think there's a lot to like from the passing game, maybe not love like. But I tell you what, this Bucs team, defense, special teams, offense, running game, passing game, this is probably the most complete team in the NFL right now. Everyone loves the Buffalo Bills in the AFC right now as maybe the most complete team. I like this Tampa team because I don't really see there's no weakness. I can't see anything you attack them at. I mean, if the worst thing you can say is like, oh, well, their number 3 receiver in Godwin's a little injured, I mean, come on. I mean, that's just a champagne problem. So this Bucs team, I mean, right now coming out of week 1, overreaction, I know, after week 1, I think this is the favorite in the NFC going forward.